Suzuki got the old Swift Sport so right. It wasn't massively fast, it wasn't massively complicated, but it was just small, simple, cheap, light fun. Now there's a new Swift Sport, but the risk is, when you've done something right for so long, if you start changing the recipe too much, you could get it really, really wrong. Welcome to the new Suzuki Swift Sport, and I have driven this car before. I drove it on the car's launch in Ireland, but as those of you who would have seen the video will know, things were going brilliantly right up until the moment when I got a puncture. Well, I didn't expect for that to happen today. That was less than ideal. Thankfully today, there are no punctures yet, and I'm back at home in England. So, having lived with this car for the last week and having got to know it a bit better, what's it like? Now, of course, this wouldn't be a YouTube video without me telling you to subscribe and click the little bell icon next to our channel name, and make sure you comment, make sure you like this video, and make sure you visit newmotoring.com. The biggest change with this new Swift Sport is the engine, because the old car had a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. This car has a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. Out has gone the old 1.6 litre with 134 brake horsepower, and in its place you'll find a 1.4 litre turbo with 140 brake horsepower. Crucially, it has way more torque than it used to. It used to have 118 pound-feet, whereas now it has 170 pounds-feet. As a result, 0 to 62 miles an hour drops from 8.7 seconds to 8.1 seconds, and the top speed rises from 121 miles an hour to 130 miles an hour. Now, I'm sure some people will be annoyed that this car doesn't have more power. A 1.4 litre turbo, I'm sure you could do probably quite a bit more than 140 brake horsepower, but I think it's actually quite a good thing. Suzuki hasn't got carried away. They haven't tried to chase a big power number, a big performance. They've kept the recipe simple. They've kept it close to the old Swift Sport. And as a result, because it's relatively modest power levels, you can enjoy it more of the time. You can put your foot down and you're not doing crazy, silly speeds. You're not going to get your license taken away because you're having fun. The way you use the engine though is different because you've got more torque. So in the old car, you really had to be in the right gear at the right time, whereas in this, I mean, you can just put it in third, and the torque just pulls you in a way the old car wouldn't be able to manage. As my girlfriend said the other day, it's very swift. I'll stop. It's a similar story with the rest of the car. This weighs 70 kilos less than the old Swift Sport. It weighs 975 kilos, which means not only does it feel physically very small on the road, but it feels light on its toes. There isn't much roll, and you don't need super sticky tyres. This has Continental Conti Sport Contact 5s, which are good tyres, but they're not massive tyres, which means you can feel the limit of grip on the road. You can feel things start to move around, and you can feel the tyres lose grip and gain grip without doing silly speeds. Again, as a normal everyday farm road car, it's more enjoyable because it hasn't got loads of grip, it hasn't got too much tyre. On the launch we did a track day. This isn't really a track day car, but the track itself was relatively small, it was quite tight, and because of that you were doing speeds that you would be able to do on the road, and it felt the same. It feels light, small, very approachable, and not at all intimidating, and that's what you want from a Swift Sport. The gearbox is a 6-speed manual, and it's not the best in a hot hatch, and actually there's a little bit of whine when you're using it. When you lift off, particularly at low speeds, you can hear the gearbox whine, which is just a bit annoying. But it's light, it's short, it's easy to use, and actually the pedals as well are really well placed, so when you want to blip the engine, it's really easy to do. Perhaps the real irritation, and maybe it's not 100% gearbox related, but it kind of is the fact that the red line on here is 6,250 RPM. In reality, you need to change gear at 6,000 RPM or before. It's not because the engine runs out of steam, it pulls really well to 6,000 RPM, but then at 6,000 RPM, well, that is where the rev limiter is. It is not where it says it should be. That is frustrating. The brakes are 285mm ventilated discs up front, and then they're solid discs at the back. Again, it's the right amount of brake for the car, in the same way it's got the right amount of tyre. Even on the track over in Ireland, they didn't feel phased. I'm sure you could get them to fade eventually, but because the car weighs literally nothing, you don't need huge brakes. As for the variable ratio electromechanical power steering, I've noticed over the last week that if you're just driving straight ahead, it's very vague just there, but as soon as you get it into a corner, it's absolutely fine. It's not something that has ruined this car to the point where I'd say, oh, it's terrible, Suzuki have ruined the Swift Sport, the steering is awful. It isn't. It's just, in the straight ahead, I don't really know what's going on. The price? £17,799. That puts it awfully close to the Ford Fiesta ST. Having driven that car, I can tell you it's a much more serious machine. Has Suzuki changed the Swift Sport recipe a bit too much? Honestly, no, I don't think so. It's still light, it's still small, it's still fun, you still get loads for your money. It's still a Swift Sport. If you want a more serious hot hatch, you can go and get one. But if you like the simplicity of the old Swift Sport, you can still get that here.